dispiriting, disheartening, and downright depressing. Last night's game at Death Valley between Clemson and Louisville were all of those things and so much more, as the Tigers were upset by an upstart Louisville team who, before last night, had never beaten the Clemson Tigers. That's all out the window now, and we're going to talk about it all here on this episode of Around the Paw. Well, guys, I don't know that there is too much to say that hasn't already been said in the 24 hours or so since last night's game ended. Save it to say, I don't think that going into last night, any of us would have ever conjured up the notion that not only would Clemson lose at home in prime time under the lights to Louisville, but that it would be a loss that was utterly thorough and just a downright beating. Make no mistake, the final score of 33-21 is no indication of how far out of reach that game was. Louisville, up until the final 5-6 minutes of the game, had their way on both sides of the ball and did any and everything that they wanted to do.
I think, again, you look at Louisville's record, very, very good losses. They lost to SMU. They lost to Miami. They lost to Notre Dame, all ranked teams. And I said this last week too, and I said that this was going to be the most uncomfortable win of the season. And it wasn't a win, and it was for sure uncomfortable. And again, there were a lot of different things that I said that have needed to be done that, that Clemson have led up on as, the season has gone on. And we saw those problems that Georgia was able to pull away with week one. We saw them again this week, especially in the run game. And I know you can say all you want about Wes Goodwin, the coaching staff, whoever it might be, but you can't do that. There was one time in the game where Louisville averaged, I believe, as much as 17 yards a carry, which is incredible to think about. I mean, Isaac Brown ran for 7.6 yards per carry. That you were going to expect that. He was the leader in the country of rushing yards per carry, which you were going to get. And that was a very big point of emphasis. But they didn't execute it. Defense didn't really execute much in terms of the passing game. Tyler Shaw didn't pass the ball because they were so successful running the ball. I mean, after the first second guy missed, I'm looking at the linebackers, Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, the secondary, just a lot of missed tackles, missed marks, missed gaps. And it led to Brown running all over Clemson. I mean, if there was one player that really took over this game, it was the freshman running back. So I know, like Garrett said, the writing is in front of you. We kind of know what went on during this game. But I think what was most upsetting to me was at 17-7 at the half, you expect adjustments. That's what you expect out of good teams that have those playoff intentions, those playoff implications. But there was nothing. There really wasn't much after 2 consecutive field goals, a turnover on downs, and then a blocked field goal. Nothing really changed. And Louisville just continued to move the ball at their own pace, like Clemson made no adjustments at the half. I think that's what hurt me the most, but very disappointing. It is a more disappointing loss than Notre Dame 2 years ago, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, it really was. Because of what I was doing last night. Really didn't get to see much of the game, but from what I've seen since then, it was just kind of like, really, this is happening, and then to see on the field goal team that they still hadn't fixed that from the whole season. That hasn't been fixed, and then after one got blocked in the first half, it happened again in the second half. And the crazy thing is, I picked the score right on the podcast last week. If you think about it, I picked it 34-21 Clemson, but it was just the wrong team won the game. And, but I mean, it just went totally wrong from the get-go. And there's not much that you can really say about that, except, congratulations, Louisville. and you came in here with a good game plan, and we did, and Clemson didn't adjust at all, and they really didn't start moving the ball to the second half. But the crazy thing about that game at the end of the game was, if we make those 2 field goals, it's an 8-point game. And if the onside kick, if we get that onside kick, we probably score they probably score a touchdown right there.
Well, we'll get to this in a few minutes,
Yeah.
but
so that's kind of my thoughts.
Cliff, if is not the right word. The onside, we did recover the onside kick. There's a 200-foot wide jumbo video board in Death Valley that showed we recovered the onside kick. I don't think that that's in any way disputable, but we'll get to that, because certainly there were far, far more factors at play than the officials that caused Clemson to lose that game. And certainly I think that was part of the puzzle. I think it was utterly atrocious how that game was officiated, but there's so many more pieces that had to fall into place for for Clemson to lose that ball game. And Griffin, to go back and just to elaborate on what you said, there were no adjustments. Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Yeah. You could see what Louisville was doing. Louisville never changed what they were doing. And why would they? Because Clemson wasn't changing to accommodate what they were throwing at us. And what Louisville was doing was working perfectly. I had an uneasy feeling when we came out. Clemson got the ball first, and you run 3 straight plays, and they're all horizontal. There was nothing downfield. There was 0 attempt to move the ball downfield. Louisville gets the ball. They drive the field, end up kicking a 40-yard field goal that misses. So you feel like you dodged a bullet. You get the ball back, and it's the same set of play calls that go absolutely nowhere. I personally had an uneasy feeling at that point. And as that game went on and on, the sense of desperation just grew. Going in the way that game played out, guys, that 17-7 halftime deficit, it's 10 points. To me, it felt like 30.
I agree. I think, especially with what you saw out of the offense, especially in the first half, a missed field goal, just punt after punt after punt. And the punts weren't great. To add on to that, a lot of them were just blips, and luckily the bounces were in the favor. But again, special teams has been an issue. I mean, look at Florida State. They blew several blocks and blocked a few field goals. They did it again. But again, I don't want to go back to this referee's point, the onside kick, the PIs, and you know, the throwing trash is absolutely unacceptable from anybody that was doing that at Memorial Stadium. But it's just it's a product of being frustrated with what you've seen in the past, not making those adjustments, and you see what goes on in that. Because a lot of people are upset that this was headlined as Clemson's first big opponent since Georgia. And you saw the dominance over the last 6 games where Clemson has been undefeated. And they weren't able to adjust. They weren't able to change what they've done, because you've seen teams do that before, especially against this team. I mean, SMU made adjustments. Miami made adjustments, whether it was on the offensive side, defensive side, wherever you believe. But they were going to run the ball down our throat no matter what. And that's what was going to happen. So for me, I think, like you said, Garrett, 17-7, it was bad, because I just have not seen this team adjust at the half. I saw it a little bit against Georgia, and then it went stagnant because of what went on, kind of how that game went, which it just got out of their hands. Clemson had a chance to come back for a majority of this game. They just never put it to tuition until the fourth quarter, when you don't have any.
When it was too late.
Time management wasn't good, and it was very too late, like you said, yes. So this is really now a huge identity reaction to it, because who truly is this team? And I think that we're going to find a little bit more about that next week too.
I guess the one thing you can say, and this is just me, and Clemson has always done well coming off a loss. I mean, they've always been good at, you know, making adjustments after the game, and which why can't we be a team that makes adjustments in game and be good at that? Why does it always wait? Why does it have to be the next week after, right? And so I mean, if we want to, find something good, at least we're able to come back and, do well the next game. So we'll see. I mean, Virginia Tech's going to be tough. But we'll talk about that later. So, yeah, I mean, this is all about talking about the Louisville game, but it really was for me just disheartening and crazy to see. Like, I've never seen a team look more bad. Like, especially the defense. Like that's what really, I was just like, our defense is not adjusting and not doing what they need to do to make plays. So
Right. Look, we could sit here all night and conjecture about what needs to happen from a coaching standpoint or who might need to go or what changes might need to be made. I think anybody can figure that out. That has been talked about nonstop since that game ended last night. Personally, do I think there need to be some changes? Yes. Whatever they may be, wherever it needs to be made, I do think there need to be some changes. And, read between the lines. I'm not mentioning specific names, but I think people know. But what really, really stunned me last night was a team like Louisville pushing around Clemson's defensive line. Clemson's defensive line doesn't get pushed around. That's just something that you never see happen. And Louisville's offensive line did whatever they wanted. Whatever they wanted. It was complete domination up front. There's a reason Louisville rushed for 7.8 yards carry.
Right. And it wasn't a matter of, the O-line opening up. It was a group effort. It was the linebackers missing tackles or breaking or not being able to bring down a tackle that could have set up 4 or 5 yards, maybe could have helped them out a little bit better. I mean, the secondary wasn't really showing a lot, especially in the passing game, because Shaw didn't pass the ball a lot. He only had 156 yards. He did pass the ball 32 times, so he forced a lot of incompletions. He only completed 17 of them. But again, we talk about this over and over again, and I said it how teams will make you pay if you just continue to give them time to extend plays. Excuse me. There's a big third down play I remember that there was just Ja'Cory Brooks was wide open in the middle of the field. The top receiver, one of the top receivers in the ACC. And you're not applying that pressure. You're not finishing off a play. And that's what this whole Clemson team has been talking about, is just finishing the play. And when you're not able to do that at, the lowest levels, we saw it against Virginia, Wake Forest. If you don't do it against Louisville, they're going to make you pay, and this is what happened. But the best thing about this is that it is not fully out of it. Unfortunately, you controlled your own destiny, and you failed. And that's okay. You still have a little bit of room to work with. You need a lot to happen, but you just have to control what you can control and keep winning. That starts next weekend against Virginia Tech. That starts the week after against Pittsburgh. And if you beat those two teams in a pretty decisive manner, in a pretty pissed off manner, you're going to have a lot of that fan base coming back at you, especially going into a game against South Carolina, which they had a big win against A&M. If they win out, they have Missouri. If they beat Missouri, it's a home game. They're ranked. They'll be ranked when they play Clemson in Death Valley. That's your final resume booster, and then you just have to leave it to the committee in a 12-team playoff.
Yep.
There's possibilities. ACC championship, I'm considering that gone just because of everything that's been going on. You have.
I don't see SMU losing. Yeah, I don't see SMU losing.
SMU are phenomenal. I don't see Miami losing. Miami are phenomenal too. They both deserve to be in the playoff. But Clemson have to prove that. And they have 3 great games to do so. It's just up to them whether they want to execute and finish that job or not.
You know what really baffled me about the defense? 0 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. That's it.
We couldn't get pressure.
We got nothing.
Either we didn't send it or we couldn't get it when we did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember us blitzing at all.
One time. I remember one time.
I remember
and it was late in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't hardly ever do it. And I don't understand that. Like, I thought that's what we did. Like,
right. One way to take a running game out is to blitz, to bring pressure and just blow it up at the point of attack.
Yeah. And we didn't do that. And we didn't adjust. And so, I mean, I'm totally in the same boat as Griffin. Right now we have no control of our destiny pretty much except to keep winning. And, after a loss like that, And if now all we can hope is, South Carolina comes in here ranked, and we have a couple of teams that possibly come in here, that we play ranked. Virginia Tech, if they, I don't know what happened. I can't remember what happened to them last week.
Blew a lead. They blew a 21-3 lead and lost in overtime.
Oh well. So I mean, all we can do is keep winning. That's it. And I think it's doable. We just got to play up to the standard of Clemson football. So,
yeah, I agree. And I thought it interesting, of course, and it's what he does. But Dabo Swinney said last night, point blank, I got outcoached. It's on me. He took responsibility. Point blank, he said, I flat out got outcoached. And that's near verbatim what he said. And well, it's good that you admit that, but Tanya Tucker, old country singer, once had a song that says it's a little too late to do the right thing now. And it goes back to the lack of adjustments. You had a chance. You had a chance to make adjustments, and they weren't made. And I told Cliff this last night. There is under no circumstances am I mad at Louisville. Louisville did what they were supposed to do. They came in and they kicked Clemson's ass. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to give credit. You got to give credit to the team, the Louisville team. They're phenomenal, like I said. And when we talked about this was perhaps one of the best teams on paper that Clemson has played, obviously, since Georgia. They had probably played the best coach in the AC, in arguably one of the better ones in Jeff Brom. He took a Cardinals team to the ACC championship in his first full year. So you got to give credit where it's due there. And it's not that, at least in my opinion, that Louisville is not a good football team. They're a phenomenal football team. They 100% deserve to be ranked today. It's just that Clemson did not play to the standard that many people thought that they would. And it's very disappointing to see because you had such high expectations. You had, that 2-year skid, the Notre Dame, the South Carolina losses. You're thinking about that Duke loss and everything could have turned around here. And it just all fell down again. And it's not out. They're not down and out of it. You have to control what you can control, though. And it starts with the staff. It starts with the players. It's all about how they react. So now we just got to see what they react with.
Yeah, well, like Cade said, you got to get up, you got to come in, and he said he was going to be there all day today, and he was working. From what I understand, he challenged the team to be there too. So you just got to get up off your back, get up off the mat and work and get better. And they say that every week, but this week, you really have to take it to heart, and they just have to get better and come out and play well on the road at Virginia Tech, one of the toughest places in the ACC to play.
Well, we're going to end this show, and I'm going to throw out something that Cliff told me last night on the way home. Cliff and I rode together, and very interesting little historical nugget here. Griffin, do you know when the last time that Clemson lost at home at night was? A home game at night that Clemson lost. And who were 2 players that were on the field the night that it happened?
Don't overthink it.
I don't know the year. I'm gonna say before the Dabo era. I'm gonna say like 2006.
It was 2013 against Florida State, and it was Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins on the field for Clemson. That was the last time prior to last night that Clemson lost a home game at night.
So what are the odds that you bring them back and they get honored on the night that you lose at home? At night.
Sports are just funny that way, aren't they?
Oh, I swear. The football gods. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's truly funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny how things come back full circle.
And that was the first time that we've lost to Louisville as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just to encapsulate what we talked about, like you said, you've got to learn how to make adjustments. You've got ultimately have to flush this and flush it quickly. Get back to work and go to Virginia Tech next week and take care of business. And we're going to talk about that game and preview the Virginia Tech matchup a little bit on the next episode of Around the Pulse. So until then, drop us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the game last night. Do you agree with the points that we've made? Is there anything that anybody would add to it? But either way you slice it, you're just like us. You're frustrated. You're disappointed, but you've got to get over it quickly. You can't dwell on it too terribly long. So we're going to talk about how the Tigers can do that on the next episode of Around the Pole. But until next time, I'm Garrett Mitchell for Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy saying, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.